side that doesn't have that lip goes to the top. Now you don't want to sit this down because the drive shaft will force the motor up and you don't want it to pop out on you. Okay. So from there we can now just reverse the process. So basically we're just going to sit him in there like that. Tuck your cord into the guide rails. We're going to put our, oh, this will have to be lifted up to put this on. Okay. Alright. So now, all going well, that'll just sit in nice and neat. If there's any movement or the shell is not lined up, there's no point trying to push ahead. It just will not work. So you're now going to put in the 8 screws that we took out. I'm going to try and do this a little bit quicker because putting it back together is not, once you've done it, you should be able to just watch the first part of the video backwards. Now just a word for the wires. I guess if you haven't done much in the way of repairs, this is going to be one of the more difficult Dyson repairs that you can do. On a barrel it's much easier than this. So if you're a little bit hesitant, either give yourself plenty of time or convince one of your friends to do it. Okay, now because I've had a relatively organised bench, all my screws were right there for this component, and now that I have a clear bench and I'm putting the last screw in, I'm confident that I haven't missed any. Okay, so now the next bit is to put our front end on. To do that, lift him back over. And you have this part facing you, and essentially just muscle him back in. Now there is one little tricky bit here which I've not actually done in this way. I'm just going to pop that back off again. This part here needs to be in the up position. Okay, so when you put that on, it'll now lock in. So now we put our 2 circlips back on, like that, and up around this side, like that. Clutch goes back in. Okay, yellow side to the out, and that will just literally sit in there and then just clip in. While it's in that position, before you screw anything on, you put the belt over the shaft. Okay, take out your 3 screws here, and we're going to slide this in, and it just sits on nice and flat. Okay, now it's worth starting. Let me just. This part here has to engage and lock down, otherwise your screw hole is not going to line up. You won't physically be able to see the screw hole. Now, in this particular case, my screwdriver isn't magnetised, so I'm just going to have to try and get it to go in there. Give that a little jiggle. That is probably the most difficult screw in the whole thing to get in, because it has to go through about 1 inch of air before it goes to the screw hole. And you probably drop 1 in 2. To get it out, if it happens to go in, it'll fall in there. You just got to tip the machine up and shake it. Okay, now we're up to putting this part on. Start with putting the bottom part of this over our spout here, and that'll just clip on. We line up the edges and they gently push it down until it clips in. Oh, and at this point too, you can put on your clutch cover. You line up your little gap with this yellow arm and it clips on. Get out our trusty belt lifter. Brush roller goes in. Line up your little locators, drop your belt on, grab your base plate, that's that. Now while you're in this position, you can pop your filter onto the cover. Now I would normally change that, but just for the sake of putting it on to finish the video, line up your little cutout with the front nipple there, push that down. This here is your air inspection, put that on. Now you're going to need to put on the hose before you put this on, otherwise it'll just be that little bit more difficult. So you can take the handle part out, pop that in, and you want it to engage with this yellow part here. It needs to come all the way down. And sometimes they're a little bit tricky. You just have to give it a little bit of pressure. And whilst that's in, now this will fit. Again, not something I do upside down normally. There we go. And on with the handle. Back on with the dust container. And you've got a machine ready to go. It's another great tip from Alec at Vacuum Spot.